Hello everyone, this is KPU Daily, and today we're going to continue our week's topic on crime on campus. Today's topic is going to be talking about female perceptions of crime on campus. Today I'll be joined by three guests that are experts in this topic. Today joining me is Danny, an expertise in evaluations, Inder, who is an expertise in routine activities theory, and Talvir, who was an expert and in charge of the implementations at Surrey Quallen. I want to thank you all for joining me, and could you guys explain the crime problem to the audience?
So what we were focusing on for this topic was female perceptions of crime on campus. So how female faculty as well as students perceive crime, more how everyone perceives crime, but specifically how safe women feel on campuses.
Okay, thank you for explaining what the crime problem is. How did you guys come to the conclusion that this problem exists at campus?
Well, we went around and we interviewed various students on campus, and what we found was from female students in particular, they had a higher perception of crime and more fear around certain areas and the possibility of crime on campus as opposed to male students.
Awesome, thank you. So you actually did bring these some clips from the interviews, so why don't we take a little look at that first, and then we'll come back.
Personally, I don't feel too at risk here at KPU, just myself, but I can see how others would. There's in the evening it's very dark. I don't really see many cameras, security, and the lighting isn't the greatest.
What's your perception on crime at KPU?
I haven't personally experienced anything, but there's always that fear that there is going to be that time either walking across the parking lot to your car. There's lighting, but it just feels kind of sketchy, especially at night. And then walking by that forested area over on the other side of Surrey Main, I never go down that way, especially at night, because it's so easy for someone to potentially grab you, and then that's that.
What do you think about KPU and the rate of crime?
I think there's definite need for approval. As a student, I don't feel comfortable walking in the night, especially 7 to 10 classes when it's fall and spring semester, because it gets dark really easily. The lack of security that I don't notice in case I need help. I don't feel like I'm a priority here as a student.
Are there any areas you don't go to on campus?
Yeah, I don't like walking into the courtyard, which is between the Fur and Main building, just because it's a really wide space area, and it can be really, it's really secluded from like visible points such as streets. I don't like going into the Spruce building just because it's quiet, there's no security, no one really knows it exists. And parking too, finding like a good parking spot close to campus is really hard.
Your perceptions of crime at KPU?
I don't really feel that vulnerable walking back from school, so I do know that I do notice that that at night the parking lots do get a little dark, and some areas could be lighter. I don't really notice any security walking around, especially at night and those later times in the day. And yeah, it's just I don't personally myself I don't find it that unsafe, but for others I do see the vulnerability there.
Alright, thanks for bringing in the clips. Those were great clips. I'm going to ask Inder, what were some examples that you found at campus of this crime problem?
Well, for starters, the forest area on the west side of the main building is a prime area. It's very secluded. It occupies very few students. Also, from the outside of the forest, there's very little visibility going in towards the forest, especially in the evening. Another area we looked at was the side entrance of the Cedar building, because there are a lot of blind spots there with lack of security cameras and lighting. And also there's a bush where if someone was to pull someone inside, it would be very difficult to detect for anybody who may be walking by. Both of these areas lack good lighting, as I said, and the main proponents of our project is to improve campus lighting and security. And
so, my understanding is you guys applied routine activities theory. Could you please explain that to the audience?
of course, so the routine activities theory suggests that there needs to be 3 criteria in place for a crime to occur. That's a suitable target, a motivated offender, and an absence of guardians. And this theory focuses on daily routine activities that can lead to crime and create situations where crime can arise. For our crime problem, this campus is fairly quiet in the evening, and on a daily basis there are very few visible people outside campus in certain areas, usually past about 8 or 9 p.m. Also, there are very few areas on campus that consistently are occupied by students, and these situations can create perceptions for female about a higher chance of them being targeted for some sort of crime. And also the lack of security at this campus in the evening is very evident, and it all creates situations where female perception of crime is high, and there's no real deterrence from people maybe wanting to commit something.
Awesome. So I'm understanding that Tyler, you're the one who implemented these actually at the school. So what were some implementations that you actually did?
So after the interviews, what we came up with was more security guards patrolling both during the night and daytime, posters and signs that provide information to a helpline so that students can call in case of an emergency, a buddy system, so a security guard can be available or made available to you to walk you to your car, a parking lot for female students near the main building, just so that it's easier for them to access their vehicle if they need to. Came up with increasing lighting in areas of the school that are secluded, trimming down the bushes and the trees to increase visibility, and more cameras to increase surveillance. For surveillance, we focus on also the parking lot, just because there isn't lots of access and it's not visible from the streets. And then a designated area for female students to just study or hang out or whatever they need alone time for.
Alright, so I understand, Danny, you were in charge of evaluating the effectiveness of this program. What were the costs of this program that you were implementing?
So for the first year, we were saying that it would be about $190,800. And so about a budget of $200,000 for the first year, which, because a lot of these costs are one time, such as lighting being $400, parking signs for switching one parking lot into female only, which would be about $400. Additional cameras in parking lots would be about $4,000. And then refurbishing the spruce seating area to be a women's only retreat. So if they were on their way to their car, which would be behind the library, so it's kind of on their way, if they were feeling unsafe, they could simply walk over into Spruce and call for one of their buddies or a security to escort them to their vehicle. So most of this stuff is for only 1 year. However, landscaping, which is going to be about an additional $5,000 a year, and an additional 4 security guards who are constantly going around. With 8-hour shifts, that would be about $175,000 annually. And then we were also thinking of a volunteer-based buddy system. So then the security, it's not all on them, and they can have not such harsh shifts. So just with that would be $180,000, but we set a budget of $200,000 just in case things happen, like camera breaks, lighting goes out, etc.
So how are you going to evaluate the implementations of this program?
So after 3 months, we're going to do a volunteer-based survey. It's anonymous, so people don't have to feel like their opinions are being publicized. But we're going to ask them questions such as, how safe do you feel walking around on campus, from not at all safe to very safe? How would you compare this campus in terms of your feelings of safety to other campuses? Are there areas you frequent that you didn't frequent 3 months prior? Things like that. And so a potential problem would be that for things like security cameras, if we ask them questions about that, we might not notice that as much as other things such as lighting or the more security guards. But aside from that, I think that we'll get much more accurate results than we would if we just monitor via CCTV.
So in conclusion, just can you give me one last rundown of what the program did and what you're going to do?
Okay, yeah, so our program is going to focus on female perception of crime. We've assessed it with the routine activities theory. We've implemented security cameras, more security guards, better lighting and better landscaping to diminish the female perception of crime and have them in less vulnerable positions. And after 3 months, we're going to measure our success based off of surveys and questionnaires that we're going to have with female students, particularly asking them about how these implementations have changed their perception on their vulnerability.
All right, thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
No problem. Thank you, the audience, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on KPU Daily.
How safe have you been feeling at KPU over the last 3 months?
Within the past 2 months, I've actually noticed a lot of extra lighting, which is great. It gives lots of visibility for me to see my surroundings. I really appreciate that extra female parking lot just because it's really accessible for me to go to my vehicle if I need to. And that extra female lounge, which is in the Spruce building as well, is a great safe place in case I ever need to go. So I do feel like my safety is a priority now, and I love the changes that are being made.